Today, I want to talk about neurodiversity in the Black community. As someone who is dyslexic and ADHD, I am really happy to have this discussion because I don't disclose in a workplace environment straight away because it's viewed with a bit of a stigma. It's viewed as, and make no bones about it, it's a disability, and because it's a spectrum, right? There's some people that aren't particularly high functioning and they need a lot of additional support, or maybe they're functioning but it impacts their life significantly and they just need some reasonable adjustments at work, and they are incredibly valuable assets to any company that they go to. And I count myself as one of those, but really the reasonable adjustments come from myself, and I'm fine to know that for me. Things are very different because one, there are lots of different ways that you can be neurodiverse. You can be atypical in the sense that you are autistic and you have a special interest. You might be slightly socially offbeat. You might be excellent at pattern recognition, and you might have a really strong sense of injustice. You're functional. You get yourself dressed and you make your food and you have children, you have a family, but there's something about you which it feels a bit awkward in social situations. You prefer to be on your own, really. You like what you like. Even at restaurants, you like to order a certain type of thing. You don't like your things touching. This is not an exhaustive list, right? Everyone is different, but sometimes, I suppose, one, because I am neuroatypical, I've had hundreds of clients at this point, and although I don't personally, I will always refer to someone to go to their doctor, and if they really need to get the piece of paper to say, I'm this person, a self-diagnosis is more than sufficient. And you can also get different types of you can get a clinical diagnosis, you can get a holistic diagnosis, but ultimately it's about knowing yourself. Funny story, I was sharing with the people on my newsletter my dating shenanigans last year. Not so much now. I'm kind of over it. I'm like, it's down my business. But last year I was, just for fun, just as an experiment, how it was going out there in the wild west of the dating world as someone who is recently divorced. And I came across a guy who was also very clearly on the spectrum, not really autistic, more ADHD, very time blind, which is something that I understand. Like Trevor Noah says something the other day, ADHD brains, they only know if it's now or not now. And sometimes I get into that. I've got ways to kind of support myself in terms of, working. I'm a mum, right? I've had to figure this stuff out. But even then, I'm still quite to the wire as a person, as in like, I'll probably get there just on time, as opposed to someone who's consistently 15, 20 minutes early for everything. I was dating this guy who was late to our first date, was a very creative type, very deep, very like, oh my God, I'm really into cinema and film and that's my whole thing. And I just knew from the off, this ain't gonna work. Because I need a yin to my yang. We can't both be disorganized, getting lost and not knowing what to do. He was looking to me like, where are we going next? I'm like, you asking me? Like, huh? Like, I don't know. Like, mm-mm. So it's interesting to understand, to know yourself deeply enough to know what you're going to need in a partner. And it also goes for workplaces, because you don't have to disclose, but you can disclose just to HR. For example, if you're dyslexic and you might need different color paper because of your processing needs, you might need some more grace when it comes to getting to work on time. You might need earphones if you're very sensitive to sound or loud bangs. You might be someone, and I always found this, I suppose I'm someone that speaks out of turn. That is because I'm like, that's wrong. Da, 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 da. And, why don't you try it like this? I'm very kind of like, I don't really pay attention to like the social kind of, oh, that's this person, I have to, or if I do, I just become very awkward. Like, apparently we're not supposed to talk to that person, and I just don't act like a normal person around them because I'm like, okay, pattern recognition, this person's important, so we're not allowed to speak to them. Or I just kind of trample over the done thing, right? And that landed me in a lot of trouble and made me feel quite annoyed and frustrated in certain spaces, feeling like I am very capable in certain ways and very creative, very emotionally in tune, because again, pattern recognition is a common trait for people on the spectrum. So I've learned to read a room. I've learned to pay attention to small shifts in people's faces and tone. I can pretty much read a situation very well before being told in an email. And sometimes that makes me a nuisance. And when I can read the truth of a situation and what I'm being fed as the official line doesn't match up with what I know to be true, I'm the one that's going to be like, huh? And yeah, that doesn't land you in very good places. You have to know how to play the game. And it's not that I didn't know how to play the game. The game kind of made me annoyed and like, but why? Why does it have to be like that? How comes I can't speak at this time? And very spectrum behavior. And I see it a lot in my clients, both people that are diagnosed and undiagnosed, how pathologized you can be as someone with issues. And, you know, there are so many attributes to having someone who is neuroatypical on the team. Like, nothing is getting past us. Like, we spot every detail. Oh, someone with the special interests in whatever their spreadsheet is. Like, come on now. But in certain instances, they're seen as an issue. They are made to feel like they're a mess. And the issue then compounds and they become very hard on themselves, and the self-talk becomes very negative, and they sort of start absorbing all of these messages about themselves rather than being exalted for the unique, wonderful, incredible being that they are. And I think we, as a society, we have one way that is exalted and praised as, you know, the right way, and it's very logical, it's very hierarchical, it's very patriarchal, and there are people that are excluded from that and are harmed by the system. And my fellow neurospices are very often on the top of that pile of discarded material. It's sad to see, especially when they're being gaslit about very clear things that they're struggling with, and rather than being met with what is actually a duty of care, they're being met with, oh, you're just incapable and you've done this wrong, and da, 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 da. Maybe they do need a bit more time because they actually care, because they're conscientious about their work and they're checking and they're rechecking and they're rechecking. Maybe they do need a bit more time, but they're being pumped for speed when actually that's not how their brain works. But there is no space for that. I don't like that. A lot of ADHD, a lot of people that are spinning many, many plates. And sometimes that's a gift and a curse, right? Because my fellow ADHDers, maybe we are a bit chaotic. Maybe we're doing 40 things at once and we have a few side quests and we haven't done the thing that we set out to do. But now the filing cabinet is organised, and I've also made dinner for tomorrow. And you eventually get around to doing the main task, but there are certain things that an ADHDer can do with ease. There's a certain amount of chaos that an ADHDer can exist within and smash it, whereas other neurotypical people will be like, oh my God, everything's gone wrong, it's too chaotic. ADHD is like, hold my purse, I got this. And they will speak to that person, calm down that situation, roll out their sleeves, fix that, and da da da, and it's actually done. Like, it's fine. So we all got our skills and talents, and they're not always the same. It's just we have a very rigid structure that, as I say, benefits some people and discards others. And I think it's very detrimental for a person to have a lifetime of squeezing themselves through a very narrow cavity of what is acceptable. You know, maybe I'm a night owl. Maybe I like to work in the night. Maybe maybe I have caring responsibilities. I don't like talking to people. Maybe I don't want to come to the work party. I don't want to see you at the pub. I'm not that social. Am I brilliant? Yes. Am I going to be holding court and no, leave me alone. I don't want to see you when we're not at work. That should not be a reason to then be excluded from very important, very relevant meetings. Yeah, I've got a lot to say on neurodiversity in the Black community, because here's the thing. There is a whole movement about everyone's neurodiverse now because of TikTok. TikTok told them they're neurodiverse. You've got one camp of people who doesn't want to be part of the, I don't know, the woke brigade. That's what they're calling it. My sister calls me a leftist, a wokey leftist. But yeah, some people don't want to be part of this snowflake generation who say, I have this ailment and I can't cope, blah, 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 blah. So they're kind of are scared they don't want to associate themselves with, they know that it's going to be met with a lack of sympathy or a lack of understanding. So they choose not to go there. They'll just suffer and figure it out. And then you have people that are clearly very symptomatic, but unless they have got this bit of paper, they can't ask for support or reasonable adjustments. And we all know that the NHS waiting list for ADHD or autism diagnosis is sometimes years long. And that leaves you in a kind of limbo as to whether you get the support you need from your team, reasonable adjustments at work, whether that is equipment, whether that is additional time, whatever it may be. And yeah, sometimes just culturally, it's like they kind of think of very low functioning people that need to be in a specific centre. And yes, we do have people that have got additional needs, and they are beautiful human beings. They are no less valuable to our society, but we have stigmatised them, and some people don't like the words associated, and they don't want to be associated with that level of need. And again, very telling of where we are as a society. So for me, on my own journey of coming to terms with my own atypical attributes, I really think that my work as a therapist is aided by the fact that I'm neuroatypical, because one, I'm born for this work. My training as a therapist means that I know that the best work is going to be elicited from someone's own self-discovery through asking the right questions or challenging someone when I can see certain things going on, whether that is, shifts in their face, you become very good at reading someone's body language, their signals, and it's very helpful to be in tune and a good detective, right? And that, I think, is boosted by being atypical. And also just being slightly offbeat, being slightly outside of the mainstream is very useful for this work. Honestly, being outside of institution is very helpful for this work. And I think that it suits me to be outside of institution because I'm neuroatypical. Now I get to structure my day in a way that suits my sensibilities. And that is such a gift. And if I knew what I knew now when I was working in corporate, I probably would be thriving in corporate because I would know how to get my needs met and know how to advocate on my own behalf. So it's not to say that you need to quit your job and live outside of the system, but you do need to have an understanding of self. You do need to trust your inner guidance as to whether this is something that you meet the criteria of. If you must get your diagnosis, as I have, do it. If it helps to share it, share it. If you want to keep it to yourself, do that. But get the support you need, and you can be absolutely brilliant, if not better, than many people in a function that suits your sensibilities. That's what I've got to say about being neuroatypical. It's an absolute gift. Shout out to all my special people.